Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are our top stories.
President Biden and former President Trump easily win primaries in key battleground states, but both are showing signs of weakness.
Collapsed buildings and landslides in Taiwan. The island sees its biggest earthquake in 25 years, the latest on casualties.
GOP leaders fired up over allegations of retaliation against IRS whistleblowers in the Hunter Biden probe. More on their accusations.
Illegal immigrants damaging the Texas razor wire before entering the country illegally. A new video shows yesterday's incident.
President Biden angry at the death of aid workers in Gaza. Find out more about his response to a strike.
European prosecutors are reportedly taking over investigations in the so-called Pfizergate. We have the latest on the accusations about the $20 billion vaccine deal.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Hi, I'm David Lamb, sitting in for Chris Beers.
And to begin the show, a 7.4 magnitude earthquake hit Taiwan early this morning, leaving at least 9 people dead and more than 900 injured. That number may rise as the rescue operations unfold.
The quake is the strongest to rattle the island in 25 years. Here's more.
Eyewitness video captured the moment a powerful earthquake hit Taiwan on Wednesday, the strongest tremor to rock the island in at least 25 years. It left several people dead and injured hundreds more, with local TV stations airing footage of a building half collapsed in the eastern area of Hualien. Firefighters rushed to rescue people from the damaged building. The quake struck just offshore from Hualien around 8 a.m. as people were going to work and school. It also triggered huge landslides and sparked a tsunami warning briefly for the island, as well as southern Japan and the Philippines. Taiwan authorities said they registered more than 25 aftershocks, with witnesses saying tremors could still be felt in Taipei later in the day. Residents in the northern capital city described the moment the quake hit.
It was shaking very violently. All the motorcycles outside our house toppled over. So I quickly switched off the gas and the electrical source and opened the main door.
It was shaking like this quite strongly. Maybe an earthquake hasn't happened in a long time, so it felt really terrifying.
The Taipei city government said it had not received any reports of major damage, and the city's metro was up and running soon after the tremor. Electricity operator Taipower said some 87,000 households in Taiwan were without power as of early afternoon. It also said that the quake did not affect the country's 2 nuclear power stations. Taiwan's high-speed rail operator said no damage or injuries were reported on its trains, but noted that service would be delayed while it carried out inspections. It's the biggest earthquake to hit the island since 1999, according to the government-backed Central News Agency, when a 7.6 magnitude tremor killed around 2,400 people.
Taiwan's President-elect Lai Ching-te said rescuing victims trapped under the rubble is now the top priority.
Currently, the most important thing, the top priority, is to rescue people. Rescuing them is of utmost priority. We need to find out how many people are still trapped and to rescue them as soon as we can.
Lai said efforts are underway to restore two-way traffic by tomorrow evening. Authorities are also working to restore water and power.
Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen was briefed on the earthquake earlier today.
Weather officials said aftershocks could still be felt in Taipei, with more than 50 recorded.
Chinese state media said the quake was felt in the southeastern province of Fujian.
And back to the U.S., 4 states went to the polls yesterday in the presidential primaries. But some voters didn't see the point in voting for candidates who are already presumptive nominees. President Biden and former President Trump clinched their party's nominations earlier this year.
Both won easily in Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, and Wisconsin. But the numbers show a deeper discontent among American voters. Rhode Island and Connecticut saw a significant percentage of uncommitted votes in the Democratic primaries.
And some Republican voters are still voting for Trump's rivals, who have already dropped out of the race.
And Trump is now calling on Biden to debate. Hear him address his supporters at a rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin last night.
We have an empty podium right here to my right. You know what that is? That's for Joe Biden. I'm trying to get him to debate so that we can discuss in a friendly manner the real problems of our country, of which there are many, instead of trying to have corrupt prosecutors fight your battles for you. That's no good.
Trump has said he's willing to have the debates overseen by the Democratic National Committee or the Commission on Presidential Debates.
Biden's campaign has not committed to participating in debates.
During his speech, Trump took a swipe at Biden for his policies, particularly on illegal immigration.
Trump promises to launch a large operation to deport illegal immigrant criminals if he wins a second term.
Joining us now is Lawrence Wilson, Epoch Times political reporter. Lawrence, good to see you. What do yesterday's primaries tell us about voter sentiment at this time?
Well, it tells us a couple of things. First, it tells us that there are a large number of voters who just aren't that interested in this primary season. And it also tells us that there is a significant number of voters who are not really happy with either choice. We're seeing these protest votes, both against President Biden and against President Trump. And the reasons are different, or what they're voting is different. Like, uncommitted for Biden is mostly people who are unhappy with the situation in Gaza. Those voting for Nikki Haley and occasionally for other also-rans on the Republican side seem to be saying, we're still just not satisfied with the presumptive nominee. So there's this block of people, somewhere above 10%, who are saying, we're just not that happy about either one.
Now, Wisconsin also voted on some constitutional amendments yesterday. Briefly explain them and their significance for us.
Yeah, there were two amendments that they really focus at the same thing. One is aimed at preventing private donations, private dollars from being spent in the state to help organize elections. Now, people who are opposing this or opposing the use of private dollars, they're saying, hey, this is an opportunity for people with big money to come in and influence our elections. They pour a lot of money into maybe traditionally Democratic precincts or areas, and that's going to skew the results. Others are saying, look, we just don't have the money to do elections the way we need to, so we can use the private help. So that was one. The prohibition passed. Private money cannot be used here in Wisconsin to help finance elections. The other had to do with poll workers and stating that only state-approved poll workers can work at the polls in Wisconsin. That measure passed as well.
Okay, and now voter turnout was lower than usual yesterday. Is that surprising to you?
Well, if you'd been here in Wisconsin where it was rainy, blowing wind, it wouldn't surprise you much. It was a nasty day here, but for Wisconsinites, they kind of took it in stride. But I think the factors had to do with this. The primary is essentially over. Both of these men, Biden and Trump, have clinched the nominations for their parties. And so you have these two groups of people voting. People who are strongly committed to the process and especially strongly committed to their party. They're going to show up and vote no matter what. And then you have these protest voters that we talked about, that great mass of voters in the middle who will show up in November. They just didn't show up yesterday.
And what do you think people should keep their eyes on next in the presidential race?
Well, I think in the next presidential race, I think the control of Congress is going to be very important. It's not going to be just who wins the White House. If we have 4 more years of Biden, or if Trump returns for another 4 years, these presidents are limited by what the Congress allows them to do. So I think this is not just a presidential election year. This is really a year where control of Congress is going to be super important, no matter who wins the presidency.
And which swing states and other states are most significant in terms of that aspect?
Well, there are a number of congressional races that are really going to affect Congress. The Senate race in PA is something we're watching closely. The Senate race in Montana, and there's just a smattering of congressional seats that are kind of swing seats that are up for grabs across the country. In terms of the presidential race, it may come down to the same 5: Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, and Arizona, there we go.
Right, okay. Yes, we'll be keeping an eye on that with you, alongside you, as the season continues for this election. Thank you so much, Lawrence Wilson, political reporter with the Epoch Times.
Thank you.
Former President Trump is asking for the judge to recuse himself from the so-called hush money case. Trump's lawyers argue that the judge's daughter, who works as a Democratic political consultant, poses a potential conflict of interest.
Trump made a similar request last year for Judge Juan Merchan to recuse himself, but the judge declined to do so after an ethics panel found that his daughter's work did not raise reasonable questions about his impartiality.
In a court filing dated April 1st, Trump's lawyers argued the trial would financially benefit Merchan's daughter's firm, Authentic Campaigns. The company describes itself as a progressive political consulting firm.
Trump says she has a partisan interest in the case and says she has received millions from his political opponents.
Continuing with Trump's so-called hush money case, the presiding judge has ties to New York Attorney General Letitia James, sparking bias concerns. Judge Juan Merchan's wife, Laura, previously worked for James, fueling calls for her husband to step down.
Records show that Laura Merchan worked for 21 years as a special assistant to the AG in New York, including 3 years under James. She changed jobs more than 2 years ago.
Attorney General Letitia James brought the massive $350 million civil fraud case against the former president.
James fixated on President Trump as she campaigned for the Attorney General's position. She called him a con man and vowed to shine a bright light into every dark corner of his real estate dealings, in her words. GOP leaders are investigating if the Department of Justice and the IRS have retaliated against IRS employees. This for raising concerns about misconduct in the Hunter Biden probe. IRS agents Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler came forward last year with allegations that the investigation into the president's son was slow-walked.
House members raised concerns yesterday that Hunter Biden and his legal team have worked to discourage Shapley and Ziegler with a range of retaliatory measures.
A group of Republican congressmen say they believe the DOJ is investigating Shapley and Ziegler over their whistleblowing efforts. They argue that such an investigation would constitute retaliation against the pair of IRS agents.
The congressmen say the whistleblowers' disclosures were lawful and protected disclosures to Congress. Former Trump advisor Peter Navarro is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to allow him to remain out of prison while he appeals his contempt of Congress case. Navarro submitted an emergency request last month. It was denied, and he reported to prison the following day.
Now he wants the Supreme Court to reconsider. He served 15 days of his 4-month sentence. The Supreme Court rules allow parties whose emergency applications are denied by a single justice to resubmit that request to another justice. In a letter yesterday, Navarro's attorneys asked Justice Neil Gorsuch to review his request.
Navarro was held in contempt of Congress for defying subpoenas from the January 6th House panel.
Coming up, former President Trump takes legal action against Truth Social co-founders, seeking to strip them of company stock. Find out why.
Feeling bummed out by too much time after work spent on the phone working? California lawmakers say a new bill has a solution. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
A performance that truly matters. For each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. Shen Hyun, coming to Lincoln Center, April 3rd through the 14th. Buy tickets now at shenyun.com.
I started having lumbar pain.
and other streaming platforms.
The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at Merkin Hall, Kaufman Music Center in New York from September 18th to 21st. The competition specially invites vocalists from the world-famous Shenyun Performing Arts to serve as judges. The prestigious Gold Award is $10,000. Chinese vocal artists aged 18 to 50 are welcome to register.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
Former President Trump says he will issue a statement on abortion next week. This as his home state of Florida prepares for a 6-week abortion limit to take effect.
The presumptive GOP presidential nominee has often shied away from taking any specific stance on abortion. He has expressed pro-life views, but also criticized fellow Republicans for taking stricter positions on the issue.
Last month, he said in a radio interview there have to be exceptions in cases of rape, incest, and if the mother's health is at risk.
The former president has also said winning elections is important. Otherwise, in his words, you'll be right back where you started.
President Trump said in the past that he believes abortion is a losing issue for Republicans. He chalked up recent GOP losses to what he sees as the hardline stances of some candidates.
And another twist in the Truth Social saga, the owner of Trump Media and Technology Group is suing 2 of its co-founders to eliminate their stakes in the company. The lawsuit alleges Andy Litinsky and Wes Moss made a series of reckless and wasteful decisions when they tried to set up the company and caused significant damage.
Trump Media is asking the court to force them to return the 8.6 million shares they were to receive. At Tuesday's closing price, that would have been worth $444 million. Litinsky and Moss previously filed their own lawsuit against Donald Trump.
They argued the former president was planning to dilute their stake in the new company.
A second temporary channel is now open at the Baltimore bridge collapse site. The channel is meant to allow a limited amount of traffic around the mangled wreckage. Debris has blocked the vital port's main shipping route since the disaster 1 week ago. The channels are primarily open for ships in the cleanup effort, along with some barges and tugs stuck in the Baltimore port.
Officials said yesterday crews are working to open a third channel to let bigger vessels through. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said rough weather added daunting challenges over the past 2 days.
Officials say diving conditions to recover bodies of 4 construction workers are still unsafe. A change to rail transport rules in light of recent disasters. The Transportation Department's Federal Railroad Administration said it will require major railroads to have at least 2 crew members for most trips. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the rule change and reactions to it.
Rail unions have long opposed one-person crews, citing safety and job concerns. They say conductors are crucial in helping operate the train and keeping engineers alert, and that they serve as first responders. The AFL-CIO Union Federation praised the rule, saying 2-person crews are inherently necessary to ensure the safe operation of U.S. rail systems. The Federal Railroad Administration says it will continue to act to make rail transport safer.
When it comes to rail safety, we cannot accept business as usual.
Transport Secretary Pete Buttigieg called it a good day for the safety of rail workers and passengers.
Before this rule, a railroad could unilaterally decide to just operate with 1 crew member without needing to check in with us.
The Association of American Railroads criticized the rule. They say 2-person crews have no proven connection to rail safety. Buttigieg scoffed at that, saying it's common sense that a moving object over 2 miles long should have at least 2 human beings on it. The issue of rail safety has garnered new attention since the February 2023 derailment of a Norfolk Southern-operated train in East Palestine, Ohio. The train caught fire and released over 1 million gallons of hazardous materials and pollutants. Bipartisan legislation in Congress to strengthen rail safety rules has stalled in the face of industry opposition. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
More than 275,000 homes and businesses across several states were without power last night. That includes in West Virginia, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan.
A powerful system of thunderstorms brought damaging winds, dangerous hail, and tornadoes to parts of the Ohio Valley. The damaging storms brought flooding, downed trees, power outages, and road blockages across West Virginia. At least 13 homes were damaged and some residents were injured.
14 tornadoes were confirmed yesterday across Illinois, Kentucky, Ohio, Alabama, and Tennessee. This possible tornado in Tennessee was caught on camera. Damaged telephone poles and storm-battered buildings show the storm's ferocity.
Cell phone video shows a University of Kentucky student being knocked over by high winds. The university canceled classes due to the powerful gusts.
Storm winds will continue bringing threats of twisters, strong winds, and large hail into the region this morning before shifting to the East Coast. And a new video shows migrants damaging razor wire and fencing before attempting to enter the U.S. illegally. The video shows migrants trying to cross the border into Texas. Patrolling National Guard officers sent them back to a dry riverbed where they gathered around fires. The officers then repaired the wire at the spots where it was damaged. New Border Patrol data shows that March saw a decrease in apprehensions at the southern border. This is as appeals court is set to hold a hearing for a controversial Texas border law. It would allow the state authorities to arrest and deport illegal immigrants.
Customs officials are working to deport over 200 illegal immigrants charged in a riot at the El Paso, Texas border last month. A Customs and Immigration Enforcement official told the Epoch Times that ICE agents had lodged immigration detainers on 215 people involved in the incident. Video shared on social media showed hundreds of illegal immigrants rushing troops at a border fence after a group tore down razor wire.
The Texas Department of Public Safety arrested the group and booked them at the El Paso County Court. A judge ordered some to be released on their own recognizance. The ICE spokesperson stated 64 individuals have been taken into ICE custody to date and are being processed for deportation.
He said deportation officers arrested 4 involved in the stampede over the weekend after the El Paso County Detention Facility released them.
The spokesperson said another 60 were released directly to enforcement and removal operations on Monday after being processed in the detention facility. In a big shakeup at the University of Texas at Austin, the university let go of dozens of staff members involved in DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion work. The move is part of the university's efforts to follow a new state law. The law essentially shuts down DEI efforts at public colleges in Texas. It came into effect on January 1st.
This law says public colleges can't have DEI offices or issue DEI statements anymore. They also can't use DEI statements in hiring or training. The university announced the closure of the Division of Campus and Community Engagement with its programs and funds moving elsewhere.
Around 60 positions tied to DEI work have been cut at the university, according to local reports.
The university's president said jobs involving students will still be there for the rest of the semester, and that laid-off workers can apply for other jobs at the university.
Perhaps you've experienced this yourself. You're winding down after work and spending time with your family and friends when your phone lights up and it's your boss. Well, a new California bill seeks to give people the right to ignore that call. Assembly Bill 2751 would allow employees to ignore calls and texts received from both public and private employers after they leave work. A California lawmaker who introduced the bill says workers shouldn't be punished for not being available 24/7 if they're not being paid for 24 hours of work. The lawmaker says people should be able to spend time with their families without being constantly interrupted at the dinner table. The idea originated in France, which adopted the first right to disconnect law in 2017. At least 13 countries have adopted similar laws in recent years, including Australia, Greece, and Spain. And some New York inmates are suing for not being allowed to watch next week's solar eclipse. The 6 violent felons claim their religious rights are being violated. Fox News reports that the 6 inmates are suing the New York Department of Corrections. Among them are a convicted murderer and a rapist.
The complaint states the solar eclipse is a religious event they must witness to observe their faith. The group of inmates includes a Baptist, a Muslim, and an atheist. The atheist argues that the eclipse is significant to his belief. He says that's because atheists celebrate science and reason.
The New York Department of Corrections decided that inmates in all 44 state prisons would remain in housing units during the eclipse. The natural phenomenon will take place on April 8th between 2 and 5 p.m. in New York.
The nation's largest producer and distributor of fresh eggs is experiencing a bird flu outbreak. Cal-Maine Foods temporarily stopped production at a facility in Texas.
The state agriculture commissioner says the company has to depopulate 1.6 million laying hens and 337,000 young hens. Cal-Maine says it's working to secure production at other plants to minimize disruption to its customers.
Officials say the current risk to the public is minimal.
Bird flu has also been detected at a poultry facility in Michigan. And up ahead, millions of Americans could soon lose discounts for home internet. That's because a critical government program is about to run out of money.
Ukraine hopes to recruit more soldiers. Kyiv is lowering the military conscription age. We'll have the details on why they're making the move soon when we return.
Presenting the heritage of traditional Chinese martial arts, fostering martial ethics, and reviving the true tradition. The preliminaries for the 2024 NTD International Traditional Martial Arts Competition will be held across New York, Taiwan, and Germany. The grand finals will be broadcast live online worldwide in August 2024. For more information, please call 1-888-477-9228.
We all know that words have power. They set things in motion
and make us happy or sad.
But there's one word that stands out because when people say it, lives are changed.
It's not a big word.
It's itsy bitsy.
It's only 3 little letters.
But when you say it,
the life of a kid like me can be changed.
So, what is this special word?
It may surprise you.
It's yes.
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 Yes to becoming a monthly supporter of Shriners Hospitals for Children.
That's right. Your monthly support allows the doctors and nurses at Shriners Hospitals for Children to give the most amazing care anywhere and change the lives of kids like me.
And me.
And me. Because people like you have said yes. Now I can play football.
And I can play catch.
And I can walk.
So what do you say? Will you say yes right now?
It's so easy.
All you have to do is pick up the phone or go to loveshriners.org right now and say yes. When you say yes to giving just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of all the kids you're helping every day. My life is filled with possibility because of the monthly support of people just like you who called the number on your screen and said yes.
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 Your yes is making a difference in my life and the lives of so many other kids like me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to say yes right away.
These are all farmers. Maybe
no,
not this
not
one.
A farm anymore.
But here's a farm, right?
No, there's also not a farm anymore.
All these people shut down because of the government policies?
Yeah.
The government wants to control the food. So we don't eat meat, but we eat insects.
As the price of staples goes through the roof, people will say, I can't afford a steak anymore. So, all right, I'll eat your stupid crickets.
Joining us now is NTD's Business Matters host, Don Mott, to give us the latest updates from the tech and business world.
All right, Don, good to see you. So what do you have for us today?
So I have a follow-up on that internet subsidy program that I talked to you guys a while back, and as well as something in the headlines about JetBlue that may annoy some people. Okay, let me start off with this internet program. So next month, 23 million low-income households could lose a subsidy that actually provides internet for them. So this is the Affordable Connectivity Program, and it's expected to run out of funding at the end of this month. Now, according to the Federal Communications Commission, those enrolled in the program will keep getting the subsidy through April. But starting in May, internet companies will have the option to offer partial discounts using any remaining federal funding. So the subsidy gives households up to $75 off internet bills each month. Now, while there is some bipartisan support to continue the subsidies, lawmakers have not yet passed an extension. So for now, officials have stopped accepting new applications and enrollments, and this program is actually part of the Biden administration's broader initiative to connect every American to the internet, and the administration is spending an additional $42.5 billion to expand access to broadband across the country.
All right, and what's the new policy at JetBlue?
Yeah, so it appears that JetBlue's checked bag fees will now vary, and that's going to be based on a departure date. So let me explain here. The price of a first checked bag now ranges from $35 to $50 depending on factors that includes whether travel dates are peak or off-peak. So peak dates encompasses about half the year, including most of the busy summer travel season, and dates before and after the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. On transatlantic flights, the first checked bag is still free, except for customers flying on the cheapest fare, which is Blue Basic. And for those customers, the cost is now between $60 and $70. Price increases will usually be waived for flyers with an airline branded credit card or Mosaic status. But they'll also be waived for those who buy tickets in JetBlue's premium mint cabin or tickets that include checked bags already.
Good to know.
Yeah, all right, Don, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The squatters' rights battle continues in New York City. Two alleged squatters in Jamaica, Queens are suing the owners of the duplex they were staying in. They're using an allegedly fraudulent lease agreement and a $25 delivery receipt to prove they were living there long enough to be legal inhabitants. NTD's Chris Beers has the latest on this and the fight to change the New York City laws surrounding squatters' rights.
Dennis Kurland and Julia Fullman had just finished renovating a duplex for $500,000 when their broker found two men on the property. The next day they changed the locks. Now the alleged squatters are suing the couple.
I think the laws have to be changed here in New York State, and squatters should not be allowed. That's an old law that goes back to the 1700s or 1600s, and we have to amend the laws and get stricter. Your home is your home, and people can't just go in there and take possession because they're there for a certain amount of time.
Seems like a sticky situation. I don't know. I mean, people have to have rights that protect them, but sometimes those rights might be impede on other people's property, you know?
I think if someone illegally entered a property, they shouldn't have legal rights to sue the owner of the property.
I mean, squatters' rights do exist for a reason, but they're not to be taken advantage of. There's good reasons for it to exist, and that's not one of those reasons, I would think.
New York City law says squatters can claim a right to live in a property after 30 days. That limit is 10 years statewide and 5 to 20 years nationwide.
That's completely insane. Just like you just saying, okay, I live here now, doesn't give you the right to live there. I think that's insane.
I mean, it's definitely different. I mean, I got nothing against trying things out and experimenting. Doesn't sound like it's a good result so far, though. But, you know, like I said, there's a reason to have squatters' rights. I'm not necessarily sure that, you know, scenario you pointed out, though, is one of the good reasons for it to be around.
I think it's ridiculous. Like I said before, the laws have to be changed. I think Florida, Governor DeSantis just passed a good law, said that they cannot stay there. They're going to call the cops right away. You have to get out if it's legally your home.
Run-ins with squatters have been making headlines. One homeowner was arrested recently after changing the locks on $1 million home she inherited. She was trying to keep a squatter out. Chris Beers, NTD News.
Turning our attention now to the Israel-Hamas war, where 7 aid workers were killed by an unintentional Israeli airstrike on Monday.
Today, the bodies of the aid workers left a morgue in Rafah. They will be transported by ambulances out of Gaza.
The 7 victims include citizens of Australia, the UK, Poland, a Palestinian, and a dual citizen of the US and Canada. They all worked for the charity World Central Kitchen to deliver food to Gaza.
President Biden responded to their deaths, saying in a statement on Tuesday that he was outraged and heartbroken. He said the strike was not a standalone incident and called on Israel to do more to protect aid workers.
Biden also said he will continue to press Israel to do more to get aid into Gaza. Israel has promised a thorough investigation into the strike.
And now we have some short headlines from the UK, Germany, and other European countries. Foreign ministers are in Brussels for a NATO summit today.
NATO Secretary General says member states will discuss sending aid to Ukraine in a more predictable way. That's to show Russia that it can't win the war.
We strongly believe that support to Ukraine should be less dependent on short-term voluntary offers and more dependent on long-term NATO commitments.
The Secretary General is reportedly planning to propose a $100 billion funding plan. This plan would run over 5 years and give NATO a more direct role in coordinating aid.
Some say the plan aims to guarantee that NATO can support Ukraine regardless of U.S. support.
Russia says more people are signing up for the military since the Moscow attacks.
Over 100,000 people have signed contracts with the military since the start of the year. This includes about 16,000 in the past 10 days alone. That's according to Russian officials.
Most of those recently signed up reportedly say they want to avenge the victims of the Moscow attack.
Last month's attack on a concert hall killed over 140 people. ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack.
Ukraine, meanwhile, also hoping to recruit more soldiers. Kyiv today lowered the military conscription age from 27 to 25. That's to replenish its depleted ranks after more than 2 years of war.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky signed the new mobilization law yesterday. Ukraine's parliament passed it last year already. It's not clear why Zelensky took so long to sign it into law.
At least 29 people are dead after fire broke out at a nightclub in Istanbul, Turkey. The club was located on the ground and basement floors of a 16-story residential building. The fire reached the 3rd floor of the building before it was extinguished.
One person is being treated at a hospital with serious injuries. Several people, including managers of the club, are being detained for questioning. The nightclub was closed for renovations at the time of the fire.
And European prosecutors are reportedly taking over investigations into the so-called Pfizergate. They're looking into vaccine negotiations between European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and the CEO of Pfizer.
Political reports that European prosecutors are probing allegations of corruption and conflict of interest.
Von der Leyen and the Pfizer CEO allegedly exchanged private messages as they hashed out a $20 billion vaccine deal. She allegedly deleted some of those messages. Up ahead, a centuries-old horse festival continues in Bulgaria. We look at a local tradition that welcomes spring and the beginning of Lent in the Eastern Orthodox Church.
A complex mix of ancient and modern, East and West, tells a story in the heart of Morocco. Sustainable architecture and green building practices also start to take root. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Abused youth often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no young person is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a young person. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show them they're loved. Homeless young people are afraid and alone with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now with your gift of $19 a month. We'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. Please don't wait. Your gift is the lifeline a young person needs now. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org. Thank you for saving precious lives.
When I drink it, the first thing was I feel the warmth in my tummy. It's kind of like gently radiating out, a kind of a very comforting warmth. And it was really good, actually. I felt much better. I did feel, actually, an effect. And I find that it is actually better when I take it regularly.
It's actually steamed and dried 9 times. And so it's really, the essence is really extracted.
Then a second time, I tried it really like on an empty stomach and just 2 teaspoons of it and over a few times. And wow, that was a big difference because suddenly I could feel, wow, I was very good energized. I didn't have to eat. I could work outside in the garden for a couple of hours and I still felt very well. And I was impressed by that. So I think it's a good product.
I'm Iris Tao at the White House, and we are NTD.
In a village in Bulgaria, residents mark the start of Lent in the Eastern Orthodox Church with a horse festival. Horse racing and breeding is an important part of the fabric of their village life, dating back centuries. Here's that story.
Bačevo, Bulgaria, a picturesque village located in the foothills of the Rila Mountains south of the Bulgarian capital, Sofia. The village has a centuries-long tradition of horse breeding.
The horse was an integral part of people's existence. On this day, we honor the animals and the people who work with them.
St. Theodore's Day, also called Horse Eater, falls on the first Saturday of Lent in the Eastern Orthodox Christian Church. The celebration has become an integral part of local Easter celebrations.
St. Theodore has been celebrated since time immemorial as the patron saint of horses and horse riders by people who use these animals to make a living as well as to fight.
Villagers mark the occasion by gathering to watch and compete horses' strength and speed. The culmination of the day's celebration are the horse races, or kushi.
We have been participating for a long time. We have had the horse for 6 years and have been first place 10 times and have come second place twice with him in the heavy load competition.
The holiday is a combination of Eastern Orthodox symbolism and more ancient meanings.
St. Theodore's Day is the first of a series of spring holidays when nature wakes up to new life. It's a tribute to nature in general, and not just to the horses.
The celebrations also have a practical purpose. They give owners and potential buyers a chance to assess the health, strength, and speed of horses after the long winter.
Known for its stunning beauty, Germany's southern Bavaria region now has another natural wonder, a purple lake. The unusual color is due to sulfur bacteria on the water's surface.
These bacteria are normally found in deeper water layers without oxygen. They occasionally get disturbed, creating the purple effect on the lake.
For most visitors, the experience is less about the science and more about the joy of seeing the unusual. The bacteria will eventually sink back down.
Until then, visitors can safely enjoy the view as the bacterial gases are only dangerous in enclosed spaces.
The purple coloration has happened before, once in 2020 and again in 2021. Architecture in Morocco is a large part of the nation's rich history, culture, and ingenuity. A complex mix of ancient and modern, east and west, each structure tells a story. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
The historic city of Rabat is home to a tapestry of architectural marvels in the heart of Morocco. Centuries of tradition, culture, and history come together with the demands of modernity. Buildings here can be traced back to the Phoenicians, Carthaginians, and Romans.
Morocco, thanks to its strategic position, has known several civilizations which passed through Morocco, such as the Roman civilization, the Muslims, the Arab Islamic civilizations, the Spanish Moresque. All these civilizations left traces, buildings, and very interesting constructions in Morocco.
Historian Mohammed S. Samar says this merging of styles makes Moroccan architecture unique.
There are architectural forms which are based on geometry. There are other forms which are based on fauna and flora. And it is these forms which have given Moroccan architecture originality compared to other architecture.
Traditional Moroccan architecture continues to thrive across the country. Efforts are underway to preserve traditional building techniques and design.
If there is no hand that will work the stone, the plaster, the wood, the glass, the iron, the earthenware, and all the other materials, all of this cannot exist unless there is continuity generation after generation and a heritage that will give us this power to be able to continue what we had already achieved in the past.
In Rabat, old meets new, while Eastern and Western architecture come together. Examples can be seen all over the city, from the soon-to-be-completed Mohammed VI Tower to the Grand Theatre project.
The city of Rabat, as the capital of Morocco, knows many very important architectural projects with a modern air and which will add value to the architecture of the city, but while trying to draw inspiration from the old decoration and architectural style. It's true we try to innovate, but at the same time we try to respect certain patterns.
As Morocco continues to develop, a growing emphasis on sustainable architecture and green building practices is also starting to take root. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
If you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes stories, there's an original manuscript up for auction. According to Sotheby's New York, the vintage piece of work could fetch $1.2 million. In 1889, British writers Arthur Conan Doyle and Oscar Wilde sat down for dinner at the Langham Hotel in London.
Wilde had committed to writing The Picture of Dorian Gray, and Doyle had agreed to write The Sign of Four. That was Doyle's second Sherlock Holmes novel and one of the most famous.
Now Doyle's handwritten manuscript of The Sign of Four is up for grabs, along with letters recounting that dinner.
The auction will be held in New York on June 26.
And another auction in London showcases one of the oldest books in existence.
The Crosby-Shoyan Codex is from Egypt and was written around 250 to 350 AD.
It's right at that period when, that transitional period when papyrus scroll starts turning into codex form, so books as we know them today. And what we have in this book is the earliest known texts of two books of the Bible. So the earliest known text of the first epistle of Peter and the earliest known text of the book of Jonah. So crucially important from a textual perspective, from a perspective of Bible studies. You think about the time frame and the immediacy of those very, very early Christians to the period of Jesus Christ. You know, it's only a couple of hundred years away. And they're learning how to celebrate Easter, and this is a witness to that, to that earliest ritual.
Christie's estimates it will sell for at least $2.6 million and up to $3.8 million when it's auctioned on June 11th. Before we head into the break, here's an important change in our airtime that you may want to keep in mind if you haven't heard already.
Starting next Monday, April 8th, NTD News Today will run from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, bringing you 3 full hours of up-to-the-minute news coverage and analysis.
For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit ntd.com or download our NTD app.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
What's happened to this world we're living in? Why?
For the 4 years he has been on this earth, he has known nothing but war.
Wherever I go, the things I see, I just want to turn away. The dreams I have, the stories I could tell, will they still be possible? This year, more than ever, I need a brand new world, a clean world. Where I can improve myself and be inspired. My stage can be anywhere and everywhere. But it begins here.
Ganjing World, a brighter way of life.
It was spectacular, so beautiful.
I thought I was going to heaven.
Oh, it was electric.
I'm getting chills talking about it.
It gets a 10 from me, that's for sure.
It was that good.
Absolutely marvelous.
Hands down the best show I've ever seen.
It's emotional, it's captivating, it's visual. Every single bit of your senses is engaged.
Oh my gosh, it was a riot. I didn't expect to laugh so much and also be touched so much.
I was literally looking for something which was magical, uplifting, and it was way more than that.
The music was just so beautiful, and it really lit up the room.
And there's nothing like live music.
The combination of the music and the dancing was sometimes uplifting. You know, my toes are tapping and I want to get out of my seat. But it was also very calming.
I think it's magnificent. It's magnificent to see another part of Chinese culture that a lot of people don't get to see. And the stories are amazing. The execution, the dance is amazing.
The flips, the aerial movement, it was amazing. It wasn't anything I've ever seen before.
Absolutely perfection. There wasn't even one flaw.
I must say I'm so highly impressed with the level of the dancers, their technique, just all the concepts are absolutely wonderful.
The costumes, they were works of art.
The way they used the costumes to create part of the image, it was just absolutely mind-blowing.
I thought I was going to come to see some amazing dancing, but I learned so much about the Chinese culture.
They're actually telling you the story of their life, of their culture, of their history.
and bringing it full circle so that we can see and enjoy it.
There was an encouragement to go back to that divine nature and those divine values.
This experience for me is transcendent. It was a communication to the soul and the spirit.
And I cried, I think, the whole time because it was so amazing.
It was powerful, and it is something that's needed in today's society.
People nowadays go to the doctors, the psychiatrists for pills, for antidepressants. This is the antidepressant, the best.
I knew it was going to be good. It's a billion times better than I even thought it would be.
I've heard people say you don't want to miss this, and I would fully agree.
I'm going to tell everyone to come see it. You have to.
Definitely going to come back next year.
Totally inspirational. You have to go see this. Everyone needs to see this.
Don't miss it.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime must-see that will change their lives forever.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Dave's Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Dave's Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I'm living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're going to benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
I'm in the bedroom.
Okay.
Oh, shit. It's not here.
What?
The gun's not here.
What do you mean? Where is it?
Cameron, are you in there? Open the door. Cam! Come on, Cam.
Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are our top stories.
The Trump campaign and the Republican National Committee released their fundraising figures for March. Find out more about the numbers.
At least 9 dead and over 130 still trapped. We have the latest updates on the earthquake that struck Taiwan.
New details released on the Israeli airstrike that killed 7 aid workers in the Gaza Strip. What is Israel doing to make sure this won't happen again? Jason Perry reports.
A cascade of security failures at Microsoft. A report by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security rips the company for errors that allowed Chinese hackers to breach U.S. government emails.
European prosecutors are reportedly taking over investigations in the so-called Pfizergate. We have the latest on the accusations about the $20 billion vaccine deal.
A college basketball forward is earning a special award at the Final Four. We learn more about the player's journey, from sleeping in his family's car to winning on the court.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Hi, I'm David Lamb, sitting in for Chris Beers.
And to begin the show, in Taiwan, rescue efforts are underway after a magnitude 7.4 earthquake struck earlier today.
Aftershocks continue to rock the island.
The U.S. Geological Survey recorded 29 aftershocks greater than a magnitude of 4.0 near the epicenter.
This was Taiwan's strongest earthquake in nearly 25 years. Taiwan authorities said 9 people have died and at least 1,000 were injured.
Video footage shows strong shaking throughout Taiwan as well as damaged buildings.
Earlier, emergency responders rescued 75 people stranded in various tunnels near the epicenter. Roughly 137 people are still trapped.
Because there are quite a lot of aftershocks, the command post had to be moved away so it will be safe to dismantle or do further rescue work in the future. And because of the aftershocks, the building tilted a little more, and there are risks of collapse.
Currently, the most important thing, the top priority, is to rescue people. Rescuing them is of utmost priority. We need to find out how many people are still trapped and to rescue them as soon as we can.
Analysts say the earthquake is likely to cause some disruption across Asia's semiconductor supply chain.
Taiwanese chip makers from TSMC to UMC halted some operations to inspect facilities and relocate employees.
Japan's earthquake authorities said tremors were also detected in the Japanese prefecture of Okinawa. They warned that more earthquakes could still hit the area in the coming days.
The White House said it's monitoring the earthquake in Taiwan as well as any potential impact on Japan. It said the U.S. is ready to provide any necessary assistance.
And back to the U.S., 4 states went to the polls yesterday in the presidential primaries, but some voters didn't see the point in voting for candidates who are already presumptive nominees. President Biden and former President Trump clinched their party's nominations earlier this year.
Both won easily in Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, and Wisconsin. But the numbers show a deeper discontent among American voters. Rhode Island and Connecticut saw a significant percentage of uncommitted votes in the Democratic primaries.
And some Republican voters are still voting for Trump's rivals who have already dropped out of the race. Wisconsin voters approved 2 election-related amendments to the state constitution through ballot measures in yesterday's primary as well.
The GOP-backed measures banned private funds from the election administration and closely defined the role of an election worker. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the new measures.
Wisconsin voters are projected to approve 2 amendments to the state's constitution after answering questions on Tuesday's ballot. Private money to fund elections will be banned in the Badger State in response to grants in 2020 from Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, known as Zuckerbucks. Some Republicans argue the money helped Democratic turnout in the state's largest cities that year and unfairly shaped the outcome of the election. Biden won Wisconsin by less than 21,000 votes. The second measure will only allow officials designated by law to administer elections. That's already state law, but putting it in the Constitution makes it more difficult to repeal or change. The Associated Press projected both measures to pass with over 50% of the vote and 80% of precincts reporting. Opponents argue the amendments make no guarantee of increased government funding to help run elections once private sources are banned. Some say the measures could create unintended obstacles, like stopping local clerks from accepting donated supplies, or the use of privately owned buildings as polling places. Both ballot measures were in reaction to grant money that came from the Center for Tech and Civic Life in 2020. They received a $300 million donation that year from Zuckerberg and his wife for election officials to buy protective supplies and run elections during the COVID pandemic. The Wisconsin Republican Party stated Wisconsin sent a clear message. Elections belong to voters, not out-of-state billionaires. At least 27 states have outlawed or restricted private election grants since 2020. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Wisconsin's Democratic Governor Tony Evers is hoping to loosen one election rule. He's urging the state's Supreme Court to overturn its ruling on drop boxes.
In 2022, the conservative majority court said drop boxes for collecting absentee ballots are illegal. At the time, the court wrote that an absentee ballot must be returned by mail or the voter must personally deliver it to the municipal clerk at the clerk's office or a designated alternate site.
The court is now under more liberal control. The current justices agreed last month to revisit the case due to fierce opposition. Drop boxes have been used for years in Wisconsin, but they exploded in popularity in 2020 when COVID-19 restrictions were in place.
And now we turn to Bradley Delvin, political editor for the American Conservative, for the latest in the presidential race. Bradley, good to speak with you. To begin with, what are your takeaways from yesterday's primaries?
Well, my eyes were on Wisconsin, as were your teams. Things weren't as robust as they had been in 2020 and in 2016. If you remember 2016, Ted Cruz won Wisconsin and Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton there. In 2020, Biden beat Bernie handily and Trump had no challengers. But this time around, with Biden and Trump, the presumptive nominees of their parties, not a lot of turnout. We don't know how that shapes up for November necessarily. And we certainly have no indication on whether or not those folks who answered uncommitted on the Biden Democratic side and those who voted for Nikki Haley will not come around to their party's nominee. What I will say is those first two ballot referenda questions, banning Zuckerbucks and making sure that election officials are actually presiding over the elections, gives Republicans, I think, a lot of confidence in the state heading into November. With $419 million, Zuckerberg really changed the landscape of what Wisconsin was supposed to look like. Research from the Caesar Rodney Election Research Institute found that though that influx of cash was worth probably about 65,000 votes, and if you heard from the story just then, well, Biden only won by 22,000. So without that influx of cash and the Zuckerbergs basically coming in and running the election, Trump might have won Wisconsin by about 40,000 votes last time around.
And confidence in the system, of course, could impact whether people come out at all to vote. So we'll be watching that closely. But in terms of Wisconsin and the other states, how do polls for the voters yesterday compare with sentiment for the general election? In terms of sentiment at this point?
Yeah, I think things are going as expected for the former president and the current president. Folks don't have a lot of confidence in either necessarily, but they understand that they are in a binary choice system. And so things are going to be razor sharp. If you looked at the total number of votes each candidate received last night, it's only a few thousand votes that separate the margin between Republicans and Democrats. That will happen again come November. I think it's going to be a few thousand votes here and there in places like Wisconsin, in places like Georgia, in places like Pennsylvania that will determine the outcome. Remember 2020, despite all of the hoopla and Biden handily winning the popular vote, it was 40,000 votes across 3 states that determined the outcome of that election in 2020. And so I think you're heading for something similar here despite Trump's polling. I think Biden has made a rebound in some polls as of late. Whether or not that trend continues as we move towards November, remains to be seen. What I do know is that Trump had a really, really good fundraising month in March, really closed the gap between Trump and Biden's campaign apparatuses. And that was one of the major concerns, I think, for Republicans heading into the spring and into the summer is, can we start raising enough money with the primary process behind us where we can close the gap between President Trump and President Biden's campaign efforts? And it seems like that's going better than even Republicans in charge of the RNC would have expected.
Yeah, it does. There's a lot more ideas coming out and new approaches that we're seeing. But in terms of what's next in this race, what will you be watching for, especially in the swing states?
Well, what I found super interesting last night as well is the margin where questions 1 and 2 were approved, right? The prohibition on private funds and curtailing or preventing non-election officials from presiding over elections won by much larger majorities than if you took the total that Biden or Democrat voters voted for and then Republicans voted in the election last night. So that means more Democrats actually came alongside Republican voters, Republican-sponsored initiatives to pass question 1 and 2. And I think that's a sign that people who aren't necessarily inclined to vote for President Trump are feeling a lot more sympathetic to Republicans this time around. So how that impacts the Senate and the House, I think that bodes well for Republicans there. I think it'll be interesting to see exactly how turnout and those moderate voters impact things moving forward. On questions 1 and 2, you seem to be able to generate more support than just the base would expect.
Yeah.
And that's good for the Republicans.
All right. Thank you so much. Bradley Delvin, political editor for the American Conservative. Good to speak with you.
Thank you.
And Trump is now calling on Biden to debate. He addressed his supporters at a rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin last night.
We have an empty podium right here to my right. You know what that is? That's for Joe Biden. I'm trying to get him to debate so that we can discuss in a friendly manner the real problems of our country, of which there are many, instead of trying to have corrupt prosecutors fight your battles for you. That's no good.
Trump has said he's willing to have the debates overseen by the Democratic National Committee or the Commission on Presidential Debates.
Biden's campaign has not committed to participating in debates.
During his speech, Trump took a swipe at Biden for his policies, particularly on illegal immigration.
Trump promises to launch a large operation to deport illegal immigrant criminals if he wins a second term.
The Trump campaign and the Republican National Committee said they raised a combined $65 million in March.
According to a statement today from the RNC, the Republican entities ended the month with more than $93 million in cash on hand.
RNC co-chairman Michael Whatley said Trump has, quote, again created a fundraising juggernaut among Republicans.
The amount was a significant jump from the figures on March 20th. Trump is asking for the judge to recuse himself from the so-called hush money case. Trump's lawyers argue that the judge's daughter, who works as a Democratic political consultant, poses a potential conflict of interest.
Trump made a similar request last year for Judge Juan Merchan to recuse himself, but the judge declined to do so after an ethics panel found that his daughter's work did not raise reasonable questions about his impartiality.
In a court filing dated April 1st, Trump's lawyers argued the trial would financially benefit Merchan's daughter's firm, Authentic Campaigns. The company describes itself as a progressive political consulting firm.
Trump says she has a partisan interest in the case and says she has received millions from his political opponents.
Continuing with Trump's so-called hush money case, the presiding judge has ties to New York Attorney General Letitia James, sparking bias concerns. Judge Juan Merchan's wife, Laura, previously worked for James, fueling calls for her husband to step down.
Records show that Laura Merchan worked for 21 years as a special assistant to the AG in New York, including 3 years under James. She changed jobs more than 2 years ago.
Attorney General Letitia James brought the massive $350 million civil fraud case against the former president.
James fixated on President Trump as she campaigned for the Attorney General's position. She called him a con man and vowed to shine a bright light into every dark corner of his real estate dealings, in her words. GOP leaders are investigating if the Department of Justice and the IRS have retaliated against IRS employees, this for raising concerns about misconduct in the Hunter Biden probe. IRS agents Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler came forward last year with allegations that the investigation into the president's son was slow-walked.
House members raised concerns yesterday that Hunter Biden and his legal team have worked to discourage Shapley and Ziegler with a range of retaliatory measures.
A group of Republican congressmen say they believe the DOJ is investigating Shapley and Ziegler over their whistleblowing efforts. They argue that such an investigation would constitute retaliation against the pair of IRS agents.
The congressmen say the whistleblowers' disclosures were lawful and protected disclosures to Congress.
Still to come, former President Trump takes legal action against Truth Social co-founders, seeking to strip them of the company stock. Find out why.
Feeling stressed out by work-related calls and messages that happen after work hours and even during dinner time? California lawmakers say a new bill has the solution. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call Car Shield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through Car Shield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is gonna break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through Car Shield. Those expensive repair bills get paid and at the mechanic of their choice. They're notifying the family.
Poor guy, he doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called Car Shield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
Protect yourself from the unprecedented rise in cost for parts and repairs. Call now to save money with your price lock guarantee. Call 800-429-5128.
What was the process of actually putting this all together?
Many hours of finding the right camera angles and watching it. The first trouble started just after 1 o'clock.
45 pages, here it is right here. Donald Trump has been indicted.
Somber day for the country.
This all happened before President Trump's speech was over.
The founder of the Oath Keepers militia group is headed to prison for more than 18 years.
His lawyers didn't have this video. The video we're watching right now, his own lawyers did not have. There was a big question of what did the people do who actually did enter the building.
This is where we picked it up with the security footage that is new. At this point, the story dramatically changes.
The New Jersey man who assaulted a Capitol police officer on January 6th has been sentenced.
So this was withheld.
This was not shown to the defense.
That could be considered exculpatory evidence. This doesn't seem like what a lot of the media is showing.
It's going to change narratives no matter what your political perspective is. What we're after is the truth.
Former President Trump says he will issue a statement on abortion next week. This as his home state of Florida prepares for a 6-week abortion limit to take effect.
The presumptive GOP presidential nominee has often shied away from taking any specific stance on abortion. He has expressed pro-life views, but also criticized fellow Republicans for taking stricter positions on the issue.
Last month, he said in a radio interview there have to be exceptions in cases of rape, incest, and if the mother's health is at risk.
The former president has also said winning elections is important. Otherwise, in his words, you'll be right back where you started.
President Trump said in the past that he believes abortion is a losing issue for Republicans. He chalked up recent GOP losses to what he sees as the hardline stances of some candidates.
And another twist in the Truth Social saga. The owner of Trump Media and Technology Group is suing 2 of its co-founders to eliminate their stakes in the company. The lawsuit alleges Andy Latinsky and Wes Moss made a series of reckless and wasteful decisions when they tried to set up the company and caused significant damage.
Trump Media is asking the court to force them to return the 8.6 million shares they were to receive. At Tuesday's closing price, that would have been worth $444 million. Latinsky and Moss previously filed their own lawsuit against Donald Trump.
They argued the former president was planning to dilute their stake in the new company. And a new video shows migrants damaging razor wire and fencing before attempting to enter the U.S. illegally. The video shows migrants trying to cross the border into Texas. Patrolling National Guard officers sent them back to a dry riverbed where they gathered around fires. The officers then repaired the wire at the spots where it was damaged.
New Border Patrol data shows that March saw a decrease in apprehensions at the southern border. This as an appeals court is set to hold a hearing for a controversial Texas border law. It would allow state authorities to arrest and deport illegal immigrants. Customs officials are working to deport over 200 illegal immigrants charged in a riot at the El Paso, Texas border last month. A Customs and Immigration Enforcement official told the Epoch Times that ICE agents had lodged immigration detainers on 215 people involved in the incident. Videos shared on social media showed hundreds of illegal immigrants rushing troops at a border fence after a group tore down razor wire.
The Texas Department of Public Safety arrested the group and booked them at the El Paso County Court. A judge ordered some to be released on their own recognizance. The ICE spokesperson stated 64 individuals have been taken into ICE custody to date and are being processed for deportation.
He said deportation officers arrested 4 involved in the stampede over the weekend after the El Paso County Detention Facility released them.
The spokesperson said another 60 were released directly to enforcement and removal operations on Monday after being processed in the detention facility. A U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals is meeting today to consider whether a Texas immigration law is constitutional. The law, SB 4, lets state officials arrest and detain people they suspect of entering the country illegally.
The 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans blocked it to consider its constitutionality, and it's hearing arguments Wednesday.
The majority ruling in the 22-1 decision to block the Texas law last month leaned heavily on the 2012 Supreme Court case Arizona versus the United States.
In that case, the High Court struck down several provisions of an Arizona law intended to deter illegal immigration. The law is called the Show Me Your Papers Law. What kind of national security threat does illegal immigration pose? An illegal Chinese immigrant was arrested after breaking into the largest Marine Corps base in the country last week. For analysis, I spoke with former White House Deputy National Security Advisor Stephen Yates. He's also a senior fellow and chair of the China Policy Initiative. Stephen, welcome and thank you for joining us. Now, according to Border Protection, the illegal Chinese immigrant ignored orders to leave the military base. What do you make of this?
Well, this is conspicuously similar to when some tourist groups were given permission to go to Taiwan, and the first thing that one of them did was to leave the group and went to an unauthorized location. And so it's one of those things where it could be accidental or it could be accidentally on purpose. It is of concern no matter which way the intention goes. And it's a major problem since we don't really have any way of verifying who these visitors are and what any of their backgrounds are. So it's a nice warning about what we need to protect against, but it's disturbing that it was easily done.
Now, the facility in question is the largest U.S. Marine Corps base in the country. What's the likelihood this person is a spy with the Chinese Communist Party?
Well, they could be a spy, or they could just be someone that is a proxy where they were told, go do this, and someone else is watching. How easily does it go? How does the base respond? There's a lot of different ways that a hostile actor could use that kind of an event, even if the main person in that drama is not the spy himself. And so whether this person was a tool or were actually engaged in espionage themselves, either way, it's a problem for us.
Oh, Stephen, so should the United States be concerned about the large volume of undocumented Chinese men illegally crossing the U.S.-Mexico border? I mean, what do we know about them?
Well, we should be gravely concerned. I mean, number one, everyone in China has an identification number, and the Chinese government does an awful lot to keep track of who they are. And so anyone who is coming from China and is undocumented is obviously a concern to us and would be an outlier in terms of regular migration. So with all of the things that have moved in recent years, from human trafficking to fentanyl and other kinds of troubling substances that are deadly, to those that might be up to no good. There's a lot of reasons for concern. I mean, one of the areas of particular concern to me is the expertise in drones that comes from China at this point. And if you put together something like fentanyl and drone technology and then compromising American secure sites or mass gathering sites, that is a 9/11 times 100 kind of concern to me, and China would be the source of that.
Now, so what measures are being used to identify and distinguish asylum seekers fleeing from the CCP and people potentially working for the Chinese military or intelligence?
Well, those who are genuinely fleeing oppression and seeking asylum, I think there's many different ways that they could be known, whether it's through underground church movements, connection with collaborating groups outside of China, not just within the United States. And there's a whole host of other kinds of ways that those who genuinely are fleeing oppression and seeking a refuge in the United States could be identified. And so those that are unidentified, I think, are willfully going that direction, and that's why they're of greater concern to me.
All right, Stephen, thank you so much for your insight and for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
A big shakeup at the University of Texas at Austin. The university let go of dozens of staff members involved in DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion work. The move is part of the university's efforts to follow a new state law. The law essentially shuts down DEI efforts at public colleges in Texas. It came into effect on January 1st.
This law says public colleges can't have DEI offices or issue DEI statements anymore. They also can't use DEI statements in hiring or training. The university announced the closure of the Division of Campus and Community Engagement, with its programs and funds moving elsewhere.
Around 60 positions tied to DEI work have been cut at the university, according to local reports.
The university's president said jobs involving students will still be there for the rest of the semester, and that laid-off workers can apply for other jobs at the university.
Perhaps you've experienced this yourself. You're winding down after a long day of work, spending time with your family or friends, when your phone lights up and it's your boss. A new California bill seeks to give people the right to ignore that call. Assembly Bill 2751 would allow employees to ignore calls and texts received from both public and private employers after they leave work. A California lawmaker who introduced the bill says workers shouldn't be punished for not being available 24/7 if they're not being paid for 24 hours of work. The lawmaker says people should be able to spend time with their families without being constantly interrupted at the dinner table. The idea originated in France, which adopted the first right to disconnect law in 2017. At least 13 countries have adopted similar laws in recent years, including Australia, Greece, and Spain.
This coming Monday, make sure you grab your Eclipse glasses and maybe a raincoat. Severe thunderstorms could put a damper on eclipse watching next week. Parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana could see damaging winds, hail, rain, and perhaps a tornado. There's a chance violent storms could hold off until late afternoon, just long enough for eclipse watchers to get a decent view of the phenomenon. But cloud cover could still obscure the sky. Plus, storms firing up later in the day could impact post-eclipse travel.
And the Food and Drug Administration is facing a lawsuit. It missed its own deadline to take action to ban menthol cigarettes. The suit was filed by a coalition of civil rights and medical organizations. The plaintiffs say this comes down to, quote, profits over people. The FDA said the issue was a top priority. It sent the final rule banning menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars to the White House for approval in October. But the regulatory deadline was moved to March after lobbying from various stakeholder groups. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says tobacco companies have aggressively targeted Black and LGBT communities with menthol marketing for years. Up ahead, new details released on the Israeli airstrike that killed 7 aid workers in the Gaza Strip. What is Israel doing to make sure this won't happen again? Jason Perry reports.
A cascade of security failures at Microsoft. A report by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security rips the company for errors that allowed Chinese hackers to breach U.S. government emails. We'll have the details soon when we return.
My dad's name was David. He always talked about getting life insurance, and now it's too late.
No one was expecting my husband Dave to suffer from a heart attack. We didn't have life insurance. We thought we had more time.
Don't be Dave, and don't wait until it's too late to get the life insurance coverage you need. And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Call now to get affordable life insurance.
Just call
800-494-1562.
If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam, no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Remember, don't be Dave. Call now.
Call now.
800-494-1562.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms. But then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side. And my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
A tragic incident yesterday in the Gaza Strip. 7 humanitarian aid workers were killed by an Israeli airstrike. NTD's Jason Perry is here to explain the latest on the situation. Jason, thanks for being with us. Now, what did Israel figure out exactly what happened?
Well, Israel has released new details on this tragic incident that killed aid workers from the World Central Kitchen. Now, this organization has been working closely with Israel to help deliver aid to the Gaza Strip for the last few months. Now, last night, Israel's chief of the general staff apologized, and he also gave an update on what he's found out so far in the latest investigations. Let's have a look.
I want to be very clear. The strike was not carried out with the intention of harming WCK aid workers. It was a mistake that followed a misidentification at night during a war in a very complex conditions. It shouldn't have happened.
Now, the Israeli military likely thought the aid vehicles had terrorists inside traveling through the Gaza Strip at night. And it's also possible there was a miscommunication because the World Central Kitchen released a statement saying this aid convoy actually helped coordinate its movements with Israel Defense Forces. Now, this is something that is very critical when traveling in a war zone.
You're right. So will there be more information, do you think, that comes out about the investigation?
Yes, the Israeli general said there's also an independent investigation going on, and they will basically learn from the conclusions that come from this investigation and implement what is necessary to make sure something like this won't happen again. Israel has also established a new humanitarian command center to help improve the way they coordinate aid distribution in the Gaza Strip. But on the other hand, the World Central Kitchen has paused operations in the Gaza Strip and said that the incident was unforgivable.
Now, Jason, there's another Israeli airstrike that's also drawing attention, one in which Israel is said to have struck an Iranian embassy in Syria. What's the latest on this?
So what's interesting here is Israel recently said that this was actually not an embassy. They said it was a military compound disguised as an embassy. Now, after this attack, Iran had vowed revenge from this attack, which killed 2 Iranian generals and also 5 military advisors. So the question is, how will Iran retaliate? A Middle East expert at the Council on Foreign Relations think tank, Elliot Abrams, said he does not think Iran wants an all-out war between Hezbollah and Israel, but he said Iran could try to bomb an Israeli embassy somewhere in the world.
All right, Jason, thank you so much for your insight. You've been covering the Israel-Hamas war since the start. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
More pressure on the Chinese-owned app TikTok. One more prominent U.S. politician is now joining the effort to ban the popular short video platform.
Former Vice President Mike Pence said in a statement that TikTok is the Chinese Communist Party's way to feed America's youth their propaganda and collect data on all TikTok users.
An advocacy group founded by Pence called Advancing American Freedom has launched an ad campaign pressuring Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to bring the TikTok bill to a vote.
The bill would put the company at a crossroads, either cut ties with the Chinese Communist Party or face a ban in the U.S. It passed the House overwhelmingly last month.
TikTok launched a $2 million ad campaign last week to stop the bill. The app's parent company, ByteDance, is based in China. According to Chinese law, Chinese companies have to hand in data to the authorities when they ask for it. Is China going to meet its Made in China 2025 campaign goals? The Chinese regime had a 10-year plan to make China dominate and rapidly develop in global high-tech manufacturing and surpass Western countries. For analysis, I spoke with Bradley Thayer, founding member of the Committee on Present Danger China. He's also the co-author of Understanding the China Threat. Bradley, welcome. Great to have you with us. Now, is the Chinese Communist Party meeting its goal with its Made in China 2025 campaign?
Well, it's great to join you, and thank you for having me again on the program. Their intent is, but I don't think it's going to be realized as a result of people around the world recognizing the danger that stems from the Chinese Communist Party and doing their utmost to ensure that necessary technologies and other elements, for example, investment which underpin the technologies, do not flow into China.
Now, Bradley, more on China's ambitions, specifically in the tech sphere. What risks do those pose to the West?
Well, they pose every aspect. The effort of China to essentially establishing the commanding heights of technology, to own essentially chip design and production, to have energy technologies, for example, technologies that are going to be related to military technologies in aircraft or in missiles, in drones. For example, all of those technologies China seeks to dominate. 5G into 6G, artificial intelligence, etc. All of that unites in their effort to establish dominance in technology. And it's a question for the West, the United States in particular, whether they will allow China to achieve that, given that China is still dependent on investment and still dependent on technology from the United States in particular, as well as the West more broadly.
Now, speaking of technology, what impact are the Chinese regime's propaganda machine and soft power efforts having on global security?
Well, they're having profound effects in the way that Xi Jinping seeks to see or to have the People's Republic of China, the Chinese regime, portrayed to global audiences. So consistently, and Xi Jinping has been particularly acute, has been particularly sensitive to the PRC's global image. So technology achievements, for example, in space, in lunar exploration, are touted. Advances really in efforts to establish what's called the common destiny of mankind, or to say that the People's Republic of China will set the norms and rules for the future, are key indicators of Xi's efforts to establish, if you will, that soft power, which is so important in international politics. It really is an illumination of how important Xi Jinping takes ideology and the importance of it, both within his enforcement of his control within the Chinese Communist Party, but also in the realm of soft power, again, to advance the PRC's influence and ultimate domination of international politics, which is what they seek.
All right, Bradley, thank you so much for your insight.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Another company might be put at a crossroads to either cut the ties to China or lose a $1 billion deal in the U.S. The head of the U.S. Senate Banking Committee, Sherrod Brown, is urging President Biden to investigate Nippon Steel. It's a Japanese company with ties to the Chinese steel industry.
Nippon Steel aims to acquire U.S. Steel Corporation with about $15 billion. This deal faces bipartisan opposition due to potential threats to national security.
Reports Aide Nippon operates 9 facilities in China and has active joint ventures with Chinese state-owned companies. Senator Brown is also concerned about Japanese technology being used by the Chinese military.
Biden said last month that U.S. Steel should remain domestically owned. Former President Donald Trump has promised to go a step further and block the deal if he wins. A review says Microsoft committed a cascade of avoidable errors that allowed Chinese hackers in. The hackers breached the tech giant's network and later the email accounts of senior U.S. officials last year. The U.S. Cyber Safety Review Board report says the hack was preventable and shouldn't have happened. The panel faults Microsoft for not adequately protecting a sensitive cryptographic key. The report says that allowed the hackers to remotely sign into their target's Outlook accounts by forging credentials. The hackers downloaded about 60,000 emails from the State Department alone. That allegedly gave Chinese operatives access to the unclassified email accounts of senior U.S. diplomats, including the U.S. ambassador to China. China has denied the hacking allegations. Microsoft says it will review the board's recommendations and that it's already working to improve security.
And in more China news, President Biden warning Chinese leader Xi Jinping to not interfere in the upcoming election.
More details coming tonight at China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer at 9:30 p.m. Eastern.
And now shifting gears, we have some short headlines from Belgium and other European countries. Foreign ministers are in Brussels for a NATO summit today.
NATO's Secretary General says member states will discuss sending aid to Ukraine in a more predictable way. That's to show Russia that it can't win the war.
So we strongly believe that support to Ukraine should be less dependent on short-term voluntary offers and more dependent on long-term NATO commitments.
The Secretary General is reportedly planning to propose a $100 billion funding plan. This plan would run over 5 years and give to NATO a more direct role in coordinating aid.
Some say the plan aims to guarantee that NATO can support Ukraine regardless of U.S. support.
Russia says more people are signing up for the military since the Moscow attacks recently.
Over 100,000 people have signed contracts with the military since the start of the year. This includes about 16,000 in the past 10 days alone. That's according to Russian officials.
Most of those recently signed up reportedly say they want to avenge the victims of the Moscow attack.
Last month's attack on a concert hall killed over 140 people. ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack.
Ukraine, meanwhile, also hoping to recruit more soldiers. Kyiv today lowered the military conscription age from 27 to 25. That's to replenish its depleted ranks after more than 2 years of war.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky signed the new mobilization law yesterday. Ukraine's parliament passed it last year already. It's not clear why Zelensky took so long to sign it into law.
European prosecutors are reportedly taking over investigations in the so-called Pfizergate. They're looking into vaccine negotiations between European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and the CEO of Pfizer.
Political reports that European prosecutors are probing allegations of corruption and conflict of interest.
Von der Leyen and the Pfizer CEO allegedly exchanged private messages as they hashed out a $20 billion vaccine deal. She allegedly deleted some of those messages. Still to come, a college basketball forward is earning the special award at the Final Four. We learn more about the player's journey from sleeping in his family's car to winning on the court.
And a rare original Sherlock Holmes manuscript is up for auction. How much it might go for, and more, here on NTD News Today.
I have never seen a production any better than this, anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
Invigorating. It was encouraging. Gave me hope.
This has just been therapy for the soul.
It's a must-see. Must-see.
Make sure you see it. Make sure you see it.
Coming to Lincoln Center, April 3rd through the 14th. Buy tickets now at shenyun.com.
Hi, I'm Caleb, and this is my story. I was born with osteogenesis imperfecta, or brittle-bone disease. I have broken my bones almost 200 times, and I have had 11 surgeries. But I didn't let that stop me. I love to bike ride, climb, race, and I'm learning how to stand and walk. But I can only do all of this because of generous people like you and Shriners Hospitals for Children.
Because of people like you, Shriners Hospitals for Children has helped more than 1.3 million kids just like me, regardless of their family's ability to pay.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is only able to provide this world-class, life-changing medical care because of the generous gifts of people just like you.
Because of you, I can ride my bike. I can play basketball.
Because of people like you, I can run.
I can smile.
Will you send your love to the rescue today?
When you go to loveshriners.org right now and give just 63 cents a day, you're helping kids just like me.
Like me. Like me.
When you give today, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of the love you gave to a kid just like me.
Your gift, no matter how small, can help a child today.
This is your moment to make a difference.
When you pick up your phone, I know you have it right there, and call to give. You're helping kids like me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, please call again or give right away at loveshriners.org.
Your gift makes a difference. Thank you for giving.
The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at Merkin Hall, Kaufman Music Center in New York from September 18th to 21st. The competition specially invites vocalists from the world-famous Shenyun Performing Arts to serve as judges. The prestigious Gold Award is $10,000. Chinese vocal artists aged 18 to 50 are welcome to register.
Here's an uplifting story. A college basketball player is honored for his courage after his journey from homelessness. The U.S. Basketball Writers Association will present the honor before the Final Four on Saturday. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
Jeremiah Armstead moved so often that he wasn't eligible to play basketball until his senior year of high school.
Even practicing basketball was too much of a challenge for a family focused on surviving. But through all the nights his family slept in their car, he never lost faith.
Well, I had to grow up at a very young age. Like I had to grow up at a very young age. You know, I had to take care of, be a father figure to my brother and sister, you know, so basketball was like my safe haven. Like I play basketball, that's where I could have fun, be a kid again.
His coach and mentor, Kenny Anderson, understands the struggle.
This young man, his life, being homeless and things of that nature, really sat on me because I was evicted as a junior. I just was talking about the story this morning.
Armstead will receive the Perry Wallace Most Courageous Award before the Final Four Saturday. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
First responders in Michigan saved the life of a toddler a few weeks ago. The incident was caught on body cam video and might be hard for some to watch. This happened back in February in the Detroit suburb of Sterling Heights. Its police department received a 911 call about an 18-month-old who had stopped breathing. An officer responded to a retail store and immediately began chest compressions. Once fire crews arrived, they continued CPR and took the child to the hospital. Those quick actions saved the child's life.
The officer and the Sterling Heights Fire Department will be honored for their efforts on Friday.
And in health news, Gina Marie on Strong Mind and Body has some tips. She says, you know when you're tired when you go to bed, you're tired when you get up, and that leaves you tired all the next day. So does this sound familiar? Let's hear from Gina about how to get a good night's rest.
Many people don't recognize the damage not getting enough sleep can do to their mind and body. On a cellular level, the body is literally repairing and restoring itself, and without it, you can't do what you want physically or mentally. Less than 7 to 8 hours of sleep can interfere with your ability to think clearly. It can also prevent you from performing well at work and even affect your relationships. You can experience mood swings, depression, difficulty focusing and making decisions, and memory problems. Sleep deprivation is also a significant factor in vehicular accidents. You may have tried sleeping pills but are still tossing and turning. If so, try some natural supplements. They'll get you sleeping like a baby in no time. Let's start with number 1, perhaps the most popular, magnesium. This is one of the busiest minerals in the human body. It participates in more than 300 different biochemical processes. Several processes are associated with sleep. This is because magnesium helps to regulate neurotransmitters involved with sleep and also promotes relaxation. And number 2, reishi mushrooms. These medicinal mushrooms are adaptogens. This means that they help the body adapt to stress. The use of these mushrooms can reduce the amount of time it takes to fall asleep. It can also increase your total sleep time. Number 3, L-theanine. Both green and black teas are the main sources of this amino acid in nature. You can enjoy the relaxation properties of this remedy either in tea or supplements. Trials have concluded that L-theanine is effective at reducing anxiety and stress to support sleep. And number 4, melatonin. This hormone is responsible for your sleep-wake cycle. It is naturally produced by the body and released in the brain according to specific patterns. Taking a melatonin supplement can promote healthy sleep as it works to support and balance the body's natural circadian rhythms. Being sleep deprived is like walking through life in a daze. If this is you, take the steps necessary to ensure you get a restful sleep and enjoy a better quality of life.
If you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes stories, there's an original manuscript up for auction. According to Sotheby's New York, the vintage piece of work could fetch $1.2 million. In 1889, British writers Arthur Conan Doyle and Oscar Wilde sat down for dinner at the Langham Hotel in London.
Wilde had committed to writing The Picture of Dorian Gray, and Doyle had agreed to write The Sign of Four. That was Doyle's second Sherlock Holmes novel and one of the most famous.
Now Doyle's handwritten manuscript of The Sign of Four is up for grabs, along with letters recounting that dinner.
The auction will be held in New York on June 26th.
And another auction in London showcases one of the oldest books in existence.
The Crosby-Shoyan Codex is from Egypt and was written around 250 to 350 AD.
It's right at that period when
that transitional period when papyrus scroll starts turning into codex form, so books as we know them today. And what we have in this book is the earliest known texts of 2 books of the Bible. So the earliest known text of the first epistle of Peter and the earliest known text of the book of Jonah. So crucially important from a textual perspective, from a perspective of Bible studies. You think about the time frame and the immediacy of those very, very early Christians to the period of Jesus Christ. You have, it's only a couple of hundred years away. And they're learning how to celebrate Easter. And this is a witness to that, to that earliest ritual.
Christie's estimates it will sell for at least $2.6 million and up to $3.8 million when it's auctioned on June 11th. And that's all for today's news. Thank you for watching.
And don't forget that starting next Monday, April 8th, NTD News Today will switch to a 3-hour newscast.
So tune in from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern for more stories.
For around-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is gonna break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield. Those expensive repair bills get paid and at the mechanic of their choice. They're notifying the family.
Poor guy, he doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.